It is time to take a deep breath right here on a mental health break. Please remember, you are never alone. I launched this show after suffering a traumatic brain injury, and as I recovered, I learned the importance of prioritizing my mental health, and my guests and I will help do the same for you. Let's enjoy the episode together.
Show yourself some grace. Embrace that child that was scared a lot as a kid because of growing up in an alcoholic home. Nurture that kid. Let her know she's okay.
Welcome back to a mental health break. Today, Carrie is joining us, a three-time Olympic gold medalist at just 16 years old, now working with strategic growth and advocacy for Caron Treatment Centers. And I was talking behind the scenes with her, celebrating over 13 years of sobriety. Carrie, thank you so much for stopping by here on a mental health break.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to learn more about your story and let everyone know today you are not alone. Again, I want to welcome you back here to a mental health break. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and I'm excited to continue these great conversations with mental health advocates. Thank you for keeping the show a top 5% global ranking, and be sure to subscribe to stay current with our mental health champions. And as I mentioned, extremely accomplished, doing a lot for the mental health world, and again, celebrating 13 years of sobriety from the alcoholism that led to her children being taken away from her. She's going to share thoughts on mental health challenges, powerful women experience, including elite athletes, where 50 seconds in the Olympic pool can change the trajectory of our lives. We have a lot more value to share, so I'm ready to dive in here, Carrie. Please share your journey from wherever you feel comfortable in the mental health world.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. And wow, there's a lot there, right? All of our stories are like these giant onions, right? Where we kind of peel the layers away. And then somewhere in the middle of that onion is the causes and conditions of what cause us to struggle with mental illness or substance use disorder or, many of the other issues that some of us face. And, I believe my journey really began when I was born. I was born into a long line of alcoholics. I didn't understand what alcoholism was until I was an adult, even though I grew up in an alcoholic home. And, but I believe that kind of that pilot light to depression, anxiety, substance use disorder, I believe that was lit from day one. And, as I got older, as a typical female, my issues with alcohol and mental health really came a little bit later in my life, which most of us are a little bit later bloomers than most men. And these things really snuck up and kind of really kicked my butt without knowing that they were coming, even though I was super aware of what I grew up with, right? I was around it every day. I thought I was somehow going to be immune to it. And I really just wasn't.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, congratulations on how far you have come, inspiring for everyone out here who may be in similar shoes. What's a piece of advice you can give someone tuning in today who may be having alcohol affect them as well, and they just haven't made that step to recovery yet?
Yeah. This wasn't on my bucket list in life, right? I was an Olympic gold medalist. I had a successful career. I had a beautiful family. And, nowhere on that roadmap of my life had I envisioned dealing with substance use disorder or having to go into residential treatment 4 different times in 2 years. This was not an easy thing for me to get. Finding sustainable recovery is a journey and it's a challenge. And it's something that takes time and patience. If you're somebody out there that's struggling today, know that there's help and there's hope and that there's a lot of healing out there, but you can't do it alone. You got to pick up that 10,000-pound phone and make that first phone call. I don't care if it's to a friend, a family member, a treatment center, or a local mental health provider. You have to pick up that phone and take that first step to change your life.
Thank you for sharing that positive message. Again, everyone, you are not alone. Stick around to the end of the show. We'll tell you just how to get in touch with our guest today. But going back, as I started out, and another congratulations, you had this great Olympic success for this country, right? Tell us about your personal journey at that time and then what ultimately did lead to the alcoholism.
Yeah, I was pretty young when I won three Olympic gold medals. I was 16 years old and, probably young enough to be a little bit naive to that accomplishment and what all that entailed, and certainly naive to what was to come in the years following, right? That was I was used to living on this really high level of adrenaline and serotonin and all these things because I'm training 5, 6 hours a day. I'm racing, I'm winning. There's all these things that are affecting my brain chemistry every single day. And, one thing that I didn't plan for, which none of us plan for the ultimate demise, but, the first time I remember drinking for the sole purpose of not feeling was when I failed to make the Olympic team 4 years later in 1988. And I had no plan B. I had no idea who I was without the sport that I was defined by. I was defined by swimming. I was accepted on the pool deck. I was well known. I was good at it. And all of a sudden, I was in the stands like everybody else. And I had no idea what made me happy, where I was going to find success. And I was really, really lost. And that's the first time that alcohol really kind of like lit this trigger of this can make me not feel that uncomfortable in my own skin feeling, right? And knowing now what I know, right? It was a really temporary escape to dealing with, that giant hole that was in my soul that I searched for. By the time I got sober, I had searched for something that made me feel like that 56 seconds made me feel 30 years ago. And I mean, if you really think about that, like I was chasing something that was never going to be repeated. And through alcohol is where I found this temporary escape, this temporary numbing, this temporary ability to kind of just check out of my life.
Thank you for sharing this. And as you did find your way out of alcoholism, right? There were some things you had to do, I'm sure, to take care of your mental health. Some things work for some that won't work for everyone. Again, it's not a one size fits all, everyone mental health, but I hope to add a few more tools to your tool chest now. What are some things that you did or maybe do now to take care of your mental health here, Carrie?
Yeah, when I first got sober, I needed every resource that was available to me to help with my not just substance use disorder, but my mental health, because they do go hand in hand. And a lot of that was individual therapy, group settings, sober outings, finding what brought me joy in life, figuring out what did I really like to do that didn't include alcohol. And when I got sober, if you asked me that question, I would have absolutely no idea what to tell you what I enjoyed. So a lot of it was trial and error, and it still is today. I have a lot of things that contribute to my sobriety today. My family, my friendships, my ability to help others find this path into a sustainable recovery, my career working for Caron, learning more about brain health and neuro-restorative treatment, all these things that we're doing at Caron that are all so new and cutting edge. And believe me, I wish I had 13, 15 years ago. But these are things that are really making an impact for people's lives. So it's saving lives and it's changing people's lives.
Well, I love how you're using your story and your experiences to push forward, and now you're so involved, as you said, with that company. But I don't want to breeze past something you said, your family support, right? With friends. Let's talk a little bit about what you feel the power of support does for you and just your mental health and plus your recovery.
Yeah. Mental health and substance use and other co-occurring disorders are really so isolating. And we feel like we're alone and that nobody has gone through what we're going through or felt the feelings that we feel. What I've learned is that we all have a common thread, right? And being supported and loved and feeling worthy of that support and love. I think that was one of my biggest challenges was by the time I got sober, I felt unworthy of it because I was told I was a bad mom. I was, not a good person, all these things because under the influence, I made some really bad choices. I wasn't a bad person. I was a sick person that needed to get well. And so, I had to really navigate and learn the difference between those two things. And believe me, I lost pretty much everybody in my life but I had my dad and my brother and a couple other people that stood by my side and really did help me eventually take one step at a time to kind of scratch and claw my way into this amazing life of recovery.
And as you're saying now, amazing life of recovery. You just mentioned some very groundbreaking things you're doing at work. Can you fill
Yeah.
us in a little more? I'm someone with a traumatic brain injury, so if I'm always
Yeah.
hearing little tips and tricks on restoring some things that may have
Yep.
gotten taken away, I'm all ears.
One of the things that really drew me to Caron Treatment Centers was the neuro-restorative programs that we're offering right now, which is, we're doing FT PET scans, we're doing pharmacology testing for which medications are going to be genetically best for people if needed. We're actually able to see live and living color on these scans, depression, anxiety, substance use disorder, bipolar, schizophrenia. It's literally live and living color and right in front of you to see proof of what exactly you're going through. And I think that's so important because I think one thing that Caron is doing differently that I had never experienced in a treatment environment is actually treating the affected organ, which is the brain, rather than just treating the symptom of the disease through talk therapy. So the combination of both is really what kind of drew me to Caron, but also you're going to start seeing us dabbling in GLP-1 medications and doing a lot of testing with regards to how that helps with cravings for drug and alcohol use, et cetera. So lots and lots of exciting things happening scientifically at Caron.
Thank you for sharing that. And everyone, stick around just a bit longer. We'll tell you how to get there online too, but in a different professional set of advice that can be for mental health. I know you can give us some insights and lessons about the pressures that CEOs, celebrities, athletes, and others can experience that lead to addiction. We teased this in the beginning, your work with these high pressure, right, situations, and entrepreneurship is high pressure. This is at professional athletes like you accomplished. There's a lot of pressure there in case there's some people listening on in these high pressure roles. Let's see if we can help.
For sure. This disease and mental health co-occurring disorders doesn't really discriminate, right? They don't care what we have, what we don't have, what kind of money we have in the bank, or what our job is. This is what I call the great equalizer, right? But there are certain individuals that have high pressure positions, CEOs, founders, prominent board members, professional athletes, to name a few, that need a specific environment of which they can treat their mental health disorders and substance use disorders, but at the same time be coached and learn how to also balance work at the same time. And that's what we're doing through our Ocean Drive programs in Florida at Caron, is really catering to that community so that they have the ability to not step away completely from their life while they're in treatment, but also learn that balance.
You just took another question out there for me. You have a couple locations in different states.
Yep.
Are there any main differences, I guess you could say, in those two locations? You just brought up one.
Yep. So we've got our main campus is in Pennsylvania, and there's several programs there, from teen programs all the way to older adult programs, which we call our Monarch programs. And some of those programs are all insurance driven, meaning you can use your private insurance benefits and go get treatment. And some of those are self-pay programs for those CEOs, corporate, high net worth and high visibility people to go in and have a little bit more privacy to be able to address that. And
Yeah.
then our second campus is in South Florida, and that caters to also young adult all the way up the age bracket, and can cater both to insurance clients as well as the self-pay high net worth individuals as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And everyone, we've packed a lot into this episode. This is a lot of fun for me today, and we're not even done yet. I always like to touch base with each guest, though. Carrie, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone who's struggling out there today, who can't find a way to see the light, what's something you can offer?
What I would suggest is, and what I can offer is, the light shines as soon as we stop digging. So if you're struggling and if you find yourself digging that hole deeper, because it always gets deeper, it does not get lighter unless we put the shovel down. So please put the shovel down and know that you're worth help, you're worth recovery, and the world's a better place with you in it.
I love that. And It may be hard when times are tough and everyone experiences different adversity, but we can all share the feeling of this is tough right now. You're
Yeah.
great proof and example where you keep pushing and pushing. You're going to have a lot of great things happen to you, and you've certainly done that. Being 16, having that pressure so young, and now what you're doing, you're dedicating your life to helping people along the way. What are you looking forward to for the rest of 2025 as we're recording this end of July? What's on your plate? What's on the agenda? Let our listeners get to know you a little better.
Oh gosh, there's so many things. You had mentioned early that I lost my children and when I very early sobriety and I had a very slow graduated parenting plan for 2 years into my recovery. And, I'm so grateful for the relationship I have with my family today. My kids are adults now, and I'm looking forward to celebrating their lives with events that they have coming up between now and the end of the year. We just had another one, third of four graduate from college, and I'm so grateful to be present and healthy to celebrate their wins in life. And I'm just really looking forward to continuing the work that I get to do every day in this field and be a resource and hopefully a beacon of hope and light for other people that are out there struggling the way I was when I felt so alone. Every day is a gift, and the rest of this year, I'm sure, will be full of adventure and excitement and joy that I get to be present and sober and witness to. So I'm just happy, really
I,
happy.
I absolutely love to see the positivity. It's contagious. I feel it through this computer screen here today. Everyone, make sure you go out there and make the most of each day. I guess before I go, I want to ask you for one more piece of advice. Say you were looking at yourself 20, 30, 40 years ago. You were looking, what advice would you give you now, right after that Olympic ending?
Yeah. Show yourself some grace. Embrace that child that was scared a lot as a kid because of growing up in an alcoholic home.
Yeah.
Nurture that kid. Let her know she's okay. And just show yourself some grace for sure.
I love that advice. I try to take that advice more than I do, right? It's harder when, you're doing so much, but now that's a great reminder to not be so hard on yourself. With that,
Yeah.
I have to thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on to a mental health break. Everyone, now what you've been waiting for, where can we find you online?
Well, you can find me personally on all social media from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, of course, Carrie Bates. And you can reach Caron through Caron.org online. And there's all sorts of resources, both mental health and substance use disorder resources there for everybody. So feel free to reach out one way or another.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And if someone does want to get more information today for your company and get started, where can they go for
Yep.
easiest?
The best place to go is www.caron.org. And there's phone numbers and lots of resources on there for everybody.
All right. Thank you for sharing, everyone. I hope you found this episode valuable because I sure did. Again, my name is Vincent A. Lancy. I want to thank you for tuning in to a mental health break. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our mental health advocates. Danica is standing by if you want to get in touch further with the guest. Anything about the show behind the scenes, we're here for you. Today's show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production.com. And with that, we are signing off today. Carrie, thank you for joining us here on a mental health break.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Sure was.